Good afternoon. I'm Laura Justice, the Executive Director of the Crane Center for Early Childhood Research and Policy at The Ohio State University. And I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you to our 8th annual Symposium on Children. And in reflecting and preparing for today, I just simply cannot believe we are at our 8th symposium. Some of you may have been with us since the beginning. Briefly, our first inaugural symposium in 2014, the title was The Case for Pre-K. And 8 years ago, we really centered this symposium on the idea of pressing for a local, state, national agenda around expanding access to quality early education for children, and how far we have come. That I think everybody, or most everybody, is well aware of the importance of quality early education and care for young children. And now we're able to shift to important topics such as that which we're taking today, which is, well, how do we make the programming we're providing and expanding as high quality as it can be for the children we serve? And so today we'll be leaning in on the topic of family involvement. And we have some very, very special speakers for you today. A very brief overview of our schedule. We'll be together for 3 hours. Those of you who have come to our symposium before today know that it's usually a much more embellished event. We aim for full day. Sometimes it's even 2 days, but because we're totally virtual this year, we'll be together from now until about 3 p.m. As we move forward through the day, the benefit of doing this virtually using Zoom is that we have novel ways to engage with one another. So please introduce yourself to the chat box, share with us who you are, where you're calling in from. Feel free to use the chat box across the day to engage. And if you have any housekeeping issues that come up, we have people monitoring the chat boxes. So just shoot a chat saying, I need help for this, or a question about this. We are recording this webinar and it will be available. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with friends and family, that opportunity will be available to you. And please, please, please fill out your surveys as they come across during the day. We take the surveys from our participants very, very seriously. We read every comment you provide, and we use that to be responsive to what you want as we plan our future events. Before I introduce you to our speakers and other special guests, I do want to take a moment and make sure that you're aware of the great work that happens here at the Crane Center for Early Childhood Research and Policy at The Ohio State University. I wanted to take a minute to be sure you know who we are. We are a multidisciplinary center at Ohio State University in the College of Education and Human Ecology. We conduct state-of-the-art research focused on early childhood, and we seek to affect policy locally, in the state, in the nation, and even internationally, policy that's focused on enhancing children's well-being, and in the age of COVID, a strong focus on resilience. What's really neat about the Crane Center is our co-location and co-partnership with the Schoenbaum Family Center here in the Wineland Park community. We operate a very large Ohio State Early Head Start Partnership grant that serves families throughout families and their children, birth to 3, throughout Franklin County. And we also have an on-site Sophie Rogers School for Early Learning that serves about 100 children birth to 5 in a blended income model to create diversity among the children and the families that we work with. And that's such an exciting model because what it means is we have researchers and practitioners working side by side to strengthen knowledge and bring about change for children. I do want to highlight some of the work we do. Sometimes when you hear Research Policy Center, you might think, well, what do they really do there inside that building? Some of the things we do is we conduct federally funded research projects like Early Learning Ohio, which launched in 2015. And we're following 600 children in Central Ohio from pre-kindergarten through now 4th grade. And so we're able to really understand how schooling experiences affect children's development through these primary grades. We also write many, many peer-reviewed research articles, like our faculty associate, Dr. Ari Ansari, has been publishing really interesting papers about how absenteeism affects children's development. We also generate new and novel, totally just use synonyms. We generate new research methods to help us understand children and families' well-being. For instance, we are using hair cortisol concentration as a way to understand children's exposure to toxic stress and how that might affect their educational and developmental well-being. And then we also produce research briefs, at least for a year, which are designed to bring attention to pressing issues largely of local relevance. And so here you see an example of a brief we published 2 years ago, where we took to task Ohio's third grade reading guarantee, which is a state level policy requiring children to receive a passing score on the third grade Ohio Achievement Test by the spring of third grade to move into fourth grade. So we took that on scientifically and prepared a brief that we hope has had influence on the work of state policymakers as they think about how to improve reading achievement in children across our state. I want to highlight for you just a couple people on our team so you understand the talent that we have here in the Crane Center. Dr. Kelly Partel is an associate professor and Crane faculty associate who's conducting very important work on children's kindergarten transition and has published recent papers on that topic. More of all of these you can find on our web or reach out to us. We're happy to share them with you. Dr. Scott Graves is an associate professor here at Ohio State in our college and is also a Crane associate, conducting very important work focused on suspension and expulsion of Black boys. And his work is truly state of the art on this really important issue. Dr. Shane Piasta is a professor here in teaching and learning and a Crane faculty associate. And she wrote, co-authored a recent really important paper that I think will speak to a lot of our audience around the professionalization of early educators, which I think is a matter of real urgency in the pandemic circumstances. Dr. Hugo Gonzalez Villasante is a postdoctoral scholar. He actually received his PhD in engineering and has been in the Crane Center for about 2 years, conducting state-of-the-art research on how do we measure children's experiences in classroom settings using some really high-tech, very cool sensing technologies. And finally, Rebecca Dorr is our newly minted director of research who does I would say some of the most prominent research nationwide on young children's use of media, sort of both the good and the bad of media use by young children, with a recent paper really zeroing in on the quarantine experience for young kids. The folks I just highlighted are just a small representation of the amazing scientists that we have throughout the Crane Center doing really important work on contemporary topics. So I do encourage you to search through our website, engage with us to receive sort of the hot updates on the work we're doing. Just to highlight a couple other activities that we're doing that are of relevance to local issues in early childhood education. As a center located at Ohio State University in the great city and county of Columbus, Ohio, Franklin County, we're really invested in the well-being of children here in our community. So just to highlight some of the recent work we've done, we were commissioned by City Council in partnership with Future Ready Columbus to do a study earlier in 2021, March, April, May. We did a very rigorous assessment of children's experiences, birth to 5 across the county with a sample of 2,000 children to find out what children are doing across the day. If they're in some sort of early education setting, what does their day look like? If they're staying at home, what does their day look like? And we're really interested in using this study as a way to partner with policymakers locally to set an agenda for enhancing children's early education experiences in the years to come. Some other recent work we've been engaged in is helping the city of Columbus understand the value of certain early childhood initiatives that are being pursued locally. So as one example, our mayor has committed and supported early education expansions through his tenure as our mayor through a program called Early Start Columbus. And we engaged in an evaluation recently of the kindergarten readiness of 550 children who had been supported by the mayor's Early Start Columbus initiative back in 2018 and 2019. And in this report, you can see it only came out last month, we were able to show that children who were supported by the mayor's initiative, 85% of those children were kindergarten ready in the fall of kindergarten, which is quite remarkable given that state level estimates of kindergarten readiness are quite lower. So we're able to partner with local policymakers and early childhood advancement initiatives to help us all find out what works and where should we continue to invest locally. Finally, I wanted to briefly mention other efforts we've engaged with locally concerning how to promote racially just practices in early education settings. And anybody who was at our symposium last year recalls that we pursued anti-bias, anti-racist practices as our primary topic of the symposium. We brought in the truly remarkable speaker, Dr. Ioma Iruka from University of North Carolina, and she came and talked about her work on anti-bias practices, and we spotlighted her work, her book called Don't Look Away. And as an example of an initiative we took on after the symposium was what we called a book study, where we engaged with local early education practitioners through our Early Head Start partnership and our School for Early Learning here to engage administrators and educators with an intense study of how to introduce anti-bias, anti-racist practices in our curricula. And I did want to highlight a very, very exciting Crane Center, Schoenbaum Family Center initiative, which is our Early Head Start partnership. In recent months, we received significant expansion dollars, which allow us now to serve more than 300 infants and toddlers throughout Franklin County. And so I highlight this to shed light on our really earnest commitment to bridging research and practice as a way to bring energy towards the importance of providing quality care for all young children. Please, if you're not already a partner with us, we have lots of ways to follow what we're doing and engage with us. If you go to our website, you can sign up for e-news and weekly policy digest, really terrific ways to stay on the cusp of what's happening in early education. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. So thank you so much for joining us today. A brief overview of what we do. One of the things that we do is we sponsor this symposium every fall. And our goal is to bring to you some of the most important topics concerning early education and care, and to bring to our stakeholders the best of the best in terms of people who are working on these issues. So thank you for joining us. With that introduction in mind, I did want to note that Dean Pope Davis, the Dean of the College of Education and Human Ecology, in which the Crane Center is housed, has sent his regrets due to some urgent matters he has to attend to today. But I did want to share with you that Dean Pope Davis is a it has really been a great supporter of the Crane Center since he came to OSU 3 years ago. And under his leadership, he has established early childhood as a major priority initiative in our college, which has been crucial for even bringing more attention to the work that we do and all of our partners. I do want to now introduce you to Tanny Crane, who we have asked to give some welcoming remarks to today's symposium. And I actually believe that Tanny has joined us for all 8 symposiums and was here to welcome you. And I bring that up because it shows to you her dedication and support of the Crane Center for Early Childhood Research and Policy, which has spanned more than 8 years since the founding of this center, which was made possible through a very generous gift of the Crane family to Ohio State University. So Tanny is the president and CEO of the Crane Group and just a very consistent champion of the work we do. Thank you, Tanny.
Good afternoon. And thank you, Laura, and your amazing team at the Crane Center for organizing today's event and bringing us together to discuss the pressing issues that impact our young children. Through your research and the translation of the research for policymakers and practitioners, I am so proud to say that the Crane Center has worked diligently to improve child well-being for almost a decade. The work of improving children's lives and setting them up for success has always been important. It's always been at the core of my heart. But this pandemic has made it much more urgent. The last year and a half has laid bare all the ways in which our early child systems were broken, all the ways in which the child care market, as a US Treasury Department report just said, is unworkable from a business perspective, as well as from a child development perspective, and in terms of sustaining early childhood educators and their families. I say all of this to thank you for taking the time today to be with us, to commit to discussing solutions, to inspiring one another to keep going through a quite difficult time for this sector. We know that 1/3 of all childcare programs in Ohio are short-staffed currently, and many face imminent closure. We need more sustained investments in this work. We need more advocates like yourselves who champion the need to invest early and to invest well. Today, you'll have the pleasure of hearing from one such advocate for children and families, Dr. Angel Harris, a brilliant scholar who is entertaining and engaging, but will also challenge what you know, what we know. You'll also hear from others who are working to rethink family engagement through research, advocacy, and policy work, and in a localized setting. It is going to be an incredible day, and I'm so excited to be here and learn alongside all of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. And now back to you, Laura.
Thank you, Tanny. I always love your remarks. Yes, that's why you're the CEO of the Crane Group. All right, I am tickled to death to get to introduce to you our keynote speaker today, Dr. Angel Harris. Dr. Harris is a professor of sociology and public policy at Duke University. Previously, he was at Princeton University before he moved to Duke in 2013. Dr. Harris is actually here in Columbus because originally this was going to be a hybrid event. And so we were going to have some in-person events this morning and this virtual event. So I keep joking to him that he came all the way to Columbus from his home in North Carolina to do a presentation, but it's been special for us because I really appreciated some of the live time with Dr. Harris. A couple months ago, we always spend a lot of time figuring out, well, what's our topic going to be? And the second we settled on or family engagement, I insisted we reach out to Dr. Angel Harris. Dr. Angel Harris spoke at this event in 2017, and it was one of the most memorable talks that I've participated in. Lots of great speakers, but his was really a standout talk. Dr. Harris is the author of the book, The Broken Compass, which I encourage you to read, which takes an empirically based assessment of how to engage families, particularly families from diverse backgrounds. And so we asked Dr. Harris to join us today and talk with us about family engagement, building upon his important work, The Broken Compass. So let us welcome Dr. Harris. Thank you for joining us here. Well, I am sorry to say that, well, our time with Dr. Harris is not over, but this part of our day is. Do not leave until I tell you what's happening. It is 1:20 in Ohio, and we're going to give you a brief break, and then please come back. We have 4 terrific breakout sessions planned. Hopefully you have the agenda in front of you, but we have Dr. Harris during a breakout, further taking on the topic that we just pursued. Dr. Sherry Killen-Stewart is presenting a breakout, truly terrific content. Dr. Lisa Ganeshian, a professor of early learning and policy studies, is another breakout. And then Melissa Johnson, Starting Point Learning Center administrator, and we've had Ms. Johnson present with us in the past. She's really great. So we have 4 terrific breakout sessions. Those will be from 1:30 to 2:30, and then we're going to reconvene and bring all these elements together. So take a break. See you at 1:30 and then again at 2:30. And we can't really clap, but silent claps or Zoom claps or whatever we do in 2021 for your terrific talk, Professor Harris. Thank you.
Thank you.